Like crocodiles and piranhas. But the people here say something even bigger and more deadly is out there. Legendary, monster-sized anacondas. And they are becoming its prey.
He's saying that they was 40 to 50 meters long.
He had my whole hand in his mouth. The snake pulled me down to the ground, so I was just trying to get my hand back.
The girl was lost. No one could find her. The snake had already swallowed her.
Anacondas are some of nature's most vicious predators, equipped with razor-sharp teeth and powerful muscles to crush their prey.
The teeth of the anaconda are like needles that curve backwards.
If you try to pull out, they go in even further, deeper.
And then it throws a couple loops and starts squeezing incredibly powerfully.
The prey is trying to get its breath, and with every breath, those toils just tighten up even more until cardiac arrest.
Here you can see an anaconda making a meal of a capybara. The snake squeezes the animal, then swallows it whole. Eyewitness reports from around the world describe monster snakes reaching nearly 150 feet, or half a football field in length. These giants could be anacondas or pythons, two of the largest snake species in the world. Unlike other snake species, which kill their prey with poisonous venom, pythons and anacondas are constrictors, snakes that squeeze their prey to death. Pythons are native to Asia and Africa, anacondas to South America. No one has ever produced hard evidence of a python or anaconda longer than 30 feet. Monster Quest is sending biologist Jesus Rivas deep into Venezuela to hunt for just such a giant, an anaconda bigger than any found before. He's flown from Caracas, the Venezuelan capital, to the town of Barinas. From here, it's a 3-hour drive into the Llanos. Los Llanos, in Spanish, means plains. It is a 200,000 square mile swath of wild savanna.
The largest anacondas I found was about 17, 18 feet long. However, there have been a couple of stories people have told me that refer to a very large snake, probably much larger than anyone that I have caught. And I had no reason to disbelieve this story.
The first stop on Rivas's expedition is here, the tiny town of Montecao. It's the final outpost before leaving civilization behind. He's looking for clues from the locals about what they've seen. And he's led to this man.
He just told me a story, actually quite remarkable, something that happened to his cousin 35 years ago.
The man claims that his 13-year-old cousin had gone down to the local river alone. An anaconda approached. In the water, the snake was all but invisible. Without warning, it attacked. The anaconda wrapped its massive coils around the girl. There was no chance of escape. The The snake squeezed the girl to death, then proceeded to swallow her whole.
They found her, they killed it, they cut it open, and sure enough they found the little girl in the stomach of the snake.
That was the largest snake I had ever seen. It was at least 45 feet long.
45 feet is a giant snake, and it's just what Rivas is looking for. From this town, it's an hour's drive to this remote ranch called El Cedral. This will be Rivas's base of operations. Because anacondas can thrive on both land and in water, Rivas has a plan to search both for the elusive giant snake. He's pioneered a low-tech but daring technique to search for these predators, feeling for them with his bare feet. He'll also be armed with motion-triggered cameras and the latest military-grade sonar to help him peer into deeper waters. Existing evidence of giant snakes is sparse. One of the earliest and most famous accounts comes from British explorer Percy Fawcett, who in 1907 says he encountered a 62-foot anaconda in Brazil. Later expeditions came back with fantastic stories of killer snakes. But more recently, this series of photographs surfaced on the internet. They appear to show a man swallowed whole by a giant python. But are these photos hoaxes or real evidence of giant man-eating snakes? Experts will analyze this evidence.
If you look at the ribs, they are facing towards the back, and that would be consistent with the snake swallowing towards the tail.
The pythons in these photos are native to Asia and Africa, but there could be thousands of them right here in the United States, specifically in the Everglades of South Florida. This will be the site of another monster quest expedition. With more than 1.5 million acres of wilderness, this is a perfect hiding place for giant snakes, as seen in these shocking pictures taken in 2005. You can see a 13-foot Burmese python split almost in two after swallowing an alligator whole. On the upper right is the snake's head. On the left, its tail. The alligator's tail protrudes from the snake's ruptured belly.
To look at an animal, for instance, like a python feeding on an alligator that it would not find in its normal habitat, shows that the animal would adapt to what's available to it. A snake's digestive systems are incredible. They can digest almost anything.
And evidence suggests that these eating machines are on the move. This is also a Burmese python, and it's invaded this man's suburban Miami backyard. His struggle with it was captured by a local news crew.
Fearing for his exotic fish, the owner and a friend jumping into action, trying to pounce on the python, but charming this snake didn't go so well.
It was no isolated incident. Just a few days earlier, this python was discovered nearby with a swollen belly. What turned out to be a 15-pound pet cat named Francis. These incidents are becoming so common that Miami-Dade County now has an emergency unit to respond to such calls. It's called the Anti-Venom Unit.
This is a big problem here in South Florida. And these are big snakes that can hurt a young child as well as a teenage boy or even a full-grown adult.
Handling these snakes is dangerous, even for professionals. How did pythons native to Southeast Asia end up in these Miami neighborhoods?
For many years now, these snakes have been very popular pets.
Ron McGill of the Miami Metro Zoo has been studying Florida wildlife for nearly 30 years.
The unfortunate thing is they purchase these animals when they're hatchlings or newborns in pet shops, and they look very manageable.
But when pythons get too big for their cages, owners release them into the Everglades. And in 1992, when Hurricane Andrew hit here, destroying homes and pet stores, hundreds of young pythons escaped into the wild. Nobody could have predicted what happened next.
Because of our climate, it's so conducive to these animals when they are released or they escape that they thrive. Not only do they thrive, they reproduce.
Just how many pythons are now living in the Everglades is unknown. But there's no question the number is growing.
A large constrictor can have 50 to 60 live babies that are on their own. So really, I don't see a way short of a long, deep freeze in South Florida where these animals are going to be eradicated.
McGill has evidence that this new population of snakes are about to become giants.
This is a 20-foot skin of a reticulated python that washed up on a beach in Miami. An animal that started out as a pet, but now is indicative of a problem that we're experiencing here in South Florida. And the South Florida environment is extremely conducive to the growth of these snakes. It's a warm, humid environment, has an incredible prey base, whether it be raccoons, possums, waterfowl, and quite supportive for snakes reaching maximum size.
The implications to people here in Florida could be lethal.
A snake this size in a residential area can pretty much prey on anything he wants. This snake could kill me that fast if it wanted to.
Wildlife biologist Joe Wasilewski is no stranger to giant snakes. In 1989, he helped capture this 22-foot python, the biggest snake ever found in the United States. Now he's going to lead a hunt here in Florida to find a giant even bigger than that. Wasilewski believes that giant snakes are thriving in the Everglades and may start crossing into residential areas. Now he's looking for evidence. But snakes, even giant ones, are elusive. First, he will set up motion-sensing cameras.
You know, this is actually perfect. If I were to be a python in this neighborhood, this is where I'd want to be. Nice shaded, houses all over, Everglades right there. This could be the spot.
The place he's chosen is the border between the Everglades National Park and the densely populated suburbs south of Miami.
They'll be going from point A to point B. And if there's any movement in front of this camera, it will catch it.
Now he'll drive along this boundary in search of evidence that full-grown pythons, upwards of 20 feet, are in fact leaving the Everglades and invading these neighborhoods.
If the pythons are in the Everglades, it's just a matter of crossing a road to get into these urban areas.
Will Wasilewski find the giant snake he's looking for?
Yeah, wait, hold on, there's one.
In South Florida, there are signs that dozens of neighborhoods around Miami could be under attack from giant killer snakes. Experts point to these photos as evidence. They were taken by a wildlife researcher in the Everglades in 2005. They show a 13-foot Burmese python which appears to have burst open after swallowing a 6-foot alligator whole.
Snakes' digestive systems are incredible. They can digest almost anything. People speculating, well, that the python just exploded because the alligator was too big. That's really not the case at all. What most likely happened is that this alligator was swallowed. Either a claw or a tooth or something caused some type of perforation in the python's gut, caused an infection which led to the death of the snake.
If pythons are growing large enough to swallow alligators whole, then they could be a threat to people living nearby.
A python that gets to any significant size in a place like the Everglades will feed on any warm-blooded mammal of any size that it can kill and swallow. They can adapt, they can branch out, they can be found in suburban areas.
A 2007 U.S. Geological Survey reports that as the Earth continues to warm, to California. Joe Wasilewski thinks that's happening already.
We really could be on the verge of a real epidemic with these pythons. Just because you don't see them does not necessarily mean they're not here. What it does mean is they're hiding pretty good on us. It's been dry for the last few months, up until a couple nights ago we got some really good rains. And with the rains coming in, that sort of wakes all the wildlife up. Right now is the perfect time to look for pythons.
1,000 miles away in Venezuela, Anaconda expert Jesus Rivas is about to begin his search for a giant snake. This region of South America is a hotbed for giant snake sightings. From neighboring Brazil came one of history's most widely cited encounters. It came from this man, Colonel Percy Fawcett. On January 7, 1907, Fawcett was on assignment with Britain's Royal Geographical Society. He described the encounter in his journal.
We were drifting easily along in the sluggish current when there appeared a triangular head and several feet of undulating body. It was a giant anaconda. I sprang for my rifle and, hardly waiting to aim, smashed a .44 soft-nosed bullet into its spine. We stepped ashore and approached the reptile with caution. As far as it was possible to measure, a length of 45 feet lay out of the water and 17 feet in it, making a total length of 62 feet.
This drawing and Fawcett's account are the only existing evidence of this giant snake. In his search for new evidence, Jesus Rivas will use cutting-edge sonar imaging technology, originally designed for the U.S. Navy to detect suspicious divers in restricted waters. The device is called the DIDSON, or Dual Frequency Identification Sonar. Ed Belcher and his team at Soundmetrics in Seattle, Washington, designed this device.
This is an acoustic camera. It uses sound instead of light to generate an image.
Rivas will encounter zero visibility conditions in his search for a giant anaconda. This device will be his eyes underwater. Belcher places a brick in the tank and clouds the water to demonstrate the DIDSON's imaging capabilities. To the naked eye, the brick is invisible, but the DIDSON sees it clearly.
Now, this brick is only about 4 feet away, but in Venezuela, while you're looking for snakes, they'll be probably 30, 40 feet away, and we'll still be able to see those snakes.
Once Rivas finds a snake, he'll be able to measure it to see if he's found an actual giant. Sonar has never been used before to search for giant snakes, and what Rivas finds could raise the evidentiary bar. Joining Rivas on his expedition are his old partners, Victor and Ramon. They'll be setting motion-triggered camera traps, but they must first track down bait to lure the giant snakes. For that, they'll need to collect musk from another anaconda. Musk is a mysterious glandular excretion that Rivas believes could attract other snakes.
Nobody knows what the musk is for. It could be for defense because it's very stinky, but also it could have a social function, attraction.
Ahead, something in the road catches their eye. It's the track of an anaconda.
I can see the print of the scales here. Dirt in this side tells me the snake is going that way. And because of that print size, I can tell this snake was about 8 to 9 feet long. When I see a track this fresh, I know it's only an hour or two old. So this anaconda has to be nearby.
Anacondas inhabit shallow swamps where they stalk their prey. 5 years ago, this particular swamp was the site of a near-fatal attack. This man, Jose de Esteban, is a cowboy at El Cedral, the same ranch where Rivas is based. He is one of the few locals to tangle with an anaconda and live to tell about it. De Esteban had heard a report of a large anaconda by the roadside and went to investigate.
I was out there looking for one, and I saw it on the ground. And without even thinking, I bent down to see it closer, and before I knew it, it got me.
De Esteban struggled to keep the anaconda's coils from wrapping around his body. After nearly 5 minutes, he finally wrestled himself free. The team begins their search in the same swamp where De Esteban was attacked. They can't see them, but they know that anacondas are here. In their hunt, they use only poles and their bare feet. Rivas's unorthodox methods have earned him the nickname the Barefoot Biologist. As he searches, his only safety net is his instinct and experience.
This water is not very deep. If I catch an anaconda in a water that is too deep, she might have the upper hand. I don't want that. There's a snake here, not a very big one. There's another one right here. Rabong! Victor!
These anacondas are too small for musk extraction. But there's evidence that a bigger anaconda could be nearby.
This is a crack right here. It seems like this anaconda will be about 9-10 feet, maybe that big around.
Despite the fresh trail, Rivas cannot find the snake. The team is losing daylight. The pressure is on. Rivas discovers something, but it's not an anaconda.
Not a snake. Nobody went to find.
It's a small but very unhappy crocodile. The day seems all but over. But then, a discovery.
Oh, it's very strong. For a small snake. Now this baby's actually putting the squeeze on my arm now. If it's any harder, I wouldn't be able to withstand it.
This feisty anaconda is just right for Rivas to extract its musk. At first light, the team will set the camera traps and test the sonar.
I can see how fat he is.
And in Florida, a monster quest demonstration goes terribly wrong.
He's got me.
Snakes have been the object of fascination and worship throughout history. From the pharaoh's tombs of ancient Egypt, to Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent god of the Aztecs, to the Naga, a mythical river serpent in the Mekong Delta of Southeast Asia. To millions, snakes are the embodiment of evil and a source of paralyzing fear. That fear is very real in Venezuela and in Florida, where there could be evidence of giant pythons and anacondas. And 2 expeditions are underway to find them. In South Florida, the investigation is tracking escaped pet pythons that have for years been thriving and growing in the seclusion of the Everglades. But there are signs that they're now invading suburban neighborhoods. Captain Ernie Gilson with Miami-Dade's anti-venom unit has seen it firsthand.
I've been doing this for 9.5 years, and we're getting more and more of these calls for recoveries every year. We foresee in the future that we will definitely see larger snakes,